The verdict was 25 years in federal prison. A jury found Sam Bankman-Fried guilty on 7 counts of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. He was 32 years old when the sentence came down in March 2024. But the number does not capture the scale of what happened. Here is the real question. How did a $32 billion cryptocurrency exchange collapse into one of the biggest fraud cases in US financial history in the span of a few days? This is the story of trust being built methodically and then destroyed even faster. We are going to trace the path from a trusted exchange to the misuse of customer funds, through the investigation, the trial itself, and finally to who actually lost the money. The stakes were concrete: missing customer assets, false safety claims made publicly, and a system with almost no real controls underneath. But before we get to the sentence, we have to look at the rise. FTX grew fast. Between 2019 and 2022, the exchange became one of the largest cryptocurrency platforms in the world. Millions of people opened accounts. The company marketed itself as safe and easy. Major venture capital firms poured in nearly $2 billion in investments. From Sequoia to Paradigm, some of the smartest money on Wall Street believed in Sam Bankman-Fried's vision. They saw a first-mover advantage and a young founder who seemed to understand what retail traders wanted. Bankman-Fried became the public face of FTX. He went on CNBC multiple times, and he appeared on magazine covers, often compared to Warren Buffett. He spoke about his goal to donate almost everything he made, positioning himself as an idealistic billionaire who cared about impact. At the same time, he was a celebrity. Tom Brady endorsed FTX in commercials. Larry David starred in a Super Bowl ad that cost millions. The message in every ad was the same: FTX is safe and easy. That marketing worked because it felt backed by substance. Retail investors saw the venture capital names and assumed due diligence had already been done. If Sequoia and Paradigm invested, then someone with real expertise must have checked the books. A trader in Chicago who lost over $2 million on FTX said he thought he was dealing with an institutionally backed exchange. That feeling of safety was the entire moat. But underneath the marketing, there was a structural problem. Nobody outside the company could see it. FTX and Alameda Research were tightly connected. Bankman-Fried ran both. Publicly, he said he did not work for Alameda anymore. He said FTX was a neutral platform. But the separation was only on paper. In reality, one person controlled everything. There was a token called FTT. It became central to how the empire worked. When FTX launched it in 2019, it cost about $2. By 2021, it hit $80. The idea was to give customers equity-like participation in the platform. But FTT was not widely distributed. Alameda Research held billions of dollars worth of it. That concentration meant Alameda could not sell without crashing the price. The token was supposed to support the platform. It was really propping up Alameda's balance sheet. The whole structure was fragile. It just did not look that way from outside. Nobody could see the connection, and by the time they could, the exchange was already using customer money to hold it up. The collapse didn't start with a smoking gun. It started with a balance sheet. On November 2nd, 2022, a reporter at CoinDesk named Ian Allison was working from home when a source told him that Alameda Research might not be on solid financial ground. Allison confirmed the tip with a leaked copy of Alameda's balance sheet. What he saw was alarming. Nearly half of the $14.6 billion in assets listed on Alameda's books were FTT tokens. Alameda held billions of dollars worth of a token created by its sister company, FTX. That was the moment the house of cards became visible. The article went live, and the market instantly understood what it meant. If Alameda could not sell its FFTT without crashing the price, then the value of those assets was illusory. And if Alameda's assets were built on illusion, then the loans it had taken out using FTT as collateral were backed by nothing real. Worse, according to the criminal complaint later filed, Bankman-Fried had directed Alameda to buy large amounts of FTT to keep the price artificially high. The token was not trading on its real value. It was trading on his say-so. By the summer of 2022, several of Alameda's major lenders had gone bankrupt after the broader crypto crash. Instead of shutting down Alameda and focusing on FTX, Bankman-Fried did the opposite. He directed Alameda to dramatically increase its use of FTX customer funds to meet its external debt obligations. That is the core allegation. Customer assets from FTX were diverted to Alameda Research without customer knowledge or consent. They were used to cover losses, to make risky investments, to fund political donations, and to buy luxury real estate in the Bahamas. FTX customers had no idea any of this was happening. When they deposited money on the platform, they thought their funds were sitting in reserves. The platform said assets were fine. The public statements from Bankman-Fried said he did not invest customer deposits in anything, even treasuries. None of that was true. On November 6th, 4 days after the CoinDesk article, Changpeng Zhao, the chief executive officer of Binance, announced he would liquidate his remaining FTT tokens. It was a single tweet, and that message was enough to trigger a run on FTX. In a matter of hours, customers began withdrawing their money. $4 billion a day started flowing out. Bankman-Fried responded by going on Twitter, saying a competitor was attacking the company with false rumors. FTX is fine, he said. Assets are fine. We do not take client deposits, and we do not invest them in anything. The next day, he deleted the tweet. The price of FTT collapsed more than 75%. The emperor had no clothes, and everyone could see it. In a desperate move, Bankman-Fried called the chief executive officer of Binance and offered to sell him the entire FTX exchange. Binance sent a due diligence team to the Bahamas. What they found was chaos. When they asked for basic financial figures, like how much cash they had and what their liabilities were, the FTX leadership could not answer. They could not make heads or tails of the accounting. Within 48 hours, Binance walked away. The deal was dead. When Binance pulled out, everyone knew the company was finished. On November 11th, just days after the run began, FTX filed for bankruptcy. By November 9th, Caroline Ellison, the chief executive officer of Alameda, had told staff that Bankman-Fried and others had decided to use FTX customer funds for Alameda. She was admitting to the crime in real time as it collapsed. The investigation that followed was methodical. Federal prosecutors moved in. The Securities and Exchange Commission moved in. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission moved in. They saw what everyone could see. Old-fashioned financial fraud dressed up in crypto language. John Ray was brought in. He is the bankruptcy expert who worked the Enron scandal. What Ray found was stunning. There were no reliable records. Employees communicated expenses on Slack. The company used QuickBooks. That is the same software a small business uses for a multi-billion-dollar operation. There was no independent board. One person controlled everything. No checks, no balances, nothing. The mechanics of the case were straightforward. 3 things had to be proven: control of the funds, movement without authorization, and concealment. All 3 were there. Gary Wang pleaded guilty. He made code changes that gave Alameda special privileges. Caroline Ellison pleaded guilty. She knew customer funds were being used. Nishad Singh pleaded guilty. Ryan Salame pleaded guilty. The entire inner circle had flipped. They all testified against him. Then came the trial. The trial came down to one question. Did he know it was wrong? The prosecution did not need complex cryptocurrency mechanics. They just needed to show that billions left FTX and went to Alameda without authorization. The defense tried a different angle. They argued FTX's terms of service reserved the right to use deposits. They tried to discredit the government witnesses, but here was the problem. Everyone in the inner circle had already pleaded guilty. When your co-conspirators testify against you, the contract argument collapses. The documents backed the prosecution. The code changes backed the prosecution. The balance sheets backed the prosecution. His public statements said customer funds were safe. He said FTX did not invest deposits. Everything contradicted what actually happened inside the company. Judge Lewis Kaplan, who presided over the trial, pointed directly to Bankman-Fried's knowledge. The testimony showed he knew what he was doing was wrong. He knew Alameda was spending customer funds on risky investments. The jury took 3 days to deliberate. On November 3, 2023, they returned guilty verdicts on all 7 counts: wire fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and conspiracy to commit securities fraud. The verdict was not close. It was a complete rejection of the defense theory. When Bankman-Fried stood for sentencing in March 2024, he apologized. He said he made mistakes. He said he did not try to commit fraud. But the judge had already decided. Prosecutors asked for 40 to 50 years. The defense lawyers asked for 6.5 years. Kaplan imposed 25 years in federal prison. He said the punishment had to fit the seriousness of the crime. This was a serious crime. But the verdict was only the beginning of the reckoning. The real damage landed on the people who lost money. FTX had more than 1 million creditors. The question was simple: would they ever get their money back? John Ray led the recovery. By early 2026, over $15 billion had been recovered. The estate started distributing. The first round went to smaller creditors, claims under $50,000. They got about 120% of their principal. More rounds followed. By March 2026, another $9.6 billion was going out. Larger creditors recovered around 78 to 95% of what they lost. Some money disappeared. Some was never found. But the process moved faster than most bankruptcies. Within 4 years, customers had recovered billions. The verdict punished one executive. But the larger lesson was about what happens when a private company acts like a bank without bank controls. No audits, no oversight. One person with access to everything. The verdict was the end of the criminal case, not the end of the damage. FTX looked like a modern financial giant, but the trial exposed an older pattern: take customer money, hide the risk, and hope the run never starts. Look at who lost money, and the al-Ashad becomes clear. To see how this precedent shapes the next wave of crypto cases, watch the next breakdown. Subscribe for more.